The title is super clear because it's Crime Inc. And you know, there's these dark corners of the web that a lot of people would rather not talk about, as you know, Joshua. And it's fascinating because in the last 4 years I've been involved with the Global Cybersecurity Forum and the events, it seems that those activities have accelerated. And I know you're very passionate as a civil servant to actually set examples of how we combat it. So can you start with a framework of what are the actors that are in the market today, and how have the activities changed, and where some of the small-scale actors, if you will, are brought in by some state actors, and what does the network actually look like, and how can you track it?
All right, well, thank you for those excellent questions. Also, thank you to all of you for attending this forum and hearing about cybercrime. Let me talk first about my perspective, what I do. Within the Department of Justice in the United States, I help oversee the group that acts as the center of the department's prosecution of computer crime. I've worked there since 2005. The message I want to convey about how cybercrime is organized is that it is dispersed. It is all about specialization. One attack on a company requires several different things. There needs to be malware, someone has to do reconnaissance, someone has to do penetration, and then after they've taken data or done something, there has to be economic exploitation of that. Cyber criminals specialize in these particular steps, and they advertise their services to other cyber criminals on online forums. Actual organizations of them then are transitory. It's simply about getting together in temporary as almost a buyer-seller-customer relationship in the moment to do these types of attacks.
How has it become more sophisticated, if you will, with organized crime? Because organized crime can be very much like a cancer, right? And it spreads to vulnerable areas. And we've talked here at the GCF in 2024 about making sure the developed and the developing world work in unison so they're protected. So how sophisticated are these organized crime networks, would you suggest? And are there centers where they're stronger, or as you said, they can move from any corner of the world to the other and still do their trade?
These organizations are as sophisticated as they need to be in order to make money. So currently, within the United States and internationally, one of the greatest criminal concerns is ransomware. By ransomware, of course, we mean criminals who will penetrate a network, take away the data, encrypt what is there, and then demand a ransom in order to decrypt the data or allow them back in. Now, in order to do that, the main initial crime is you have to somehow get into the network. You have to penetrate that. Sometimes that is very easy to do. Sometimes you have large businesses with a lot of money who have not adequately protected themselves. Perhaps they have a network appliance that has a vulnerability that everyone has known about for a year, and the criminals simply exploit that. We also do see, on the other end of the scale, cyber criminals exploiting much more advanced techniques, being aware of vulnerabilities that most of the world does not know about, sometimes 0 days. And we see increasing sophistication and how they have been able to exploit this information when they get out, using sophisticated financial networks in order to conceal the profits from their crime.
Good. We had a pre-meeting, and he's so bright, and you're so dedicated to the cause. I wanted to go into a couple more sensitive areas, because I remember interviewing Christine Lagarde when she was the head of the managing director of the International Monetary Fund, and we talked about regulation of cryptocurrencies and that crypto exchange market. How does a crypto world support this area of ransomware and organized crime? And most importantly, what are you doing about it in terms of international cooperation with other legal authorities around the world?
It's a good question. So with ransomware crime, when the criminals demand a ransom, they demand that it be paid to them in cryptocurrency. There actually were ransomware offenses before cryptocurrency was invented, but it was extremely infrequent, and it was relatively easy to catch them because you could just watch the ransom go back through the banking network. Cryptocurrency provides a level of anonymity that makes it easier for them to demand a ransom and then eventually turn that into dollars, euros, whatever else they're interested in for profit. Now we should emphasize, there are plenty of lawful uses of cryptocurrency. There are many companies involved in cryptocurrency that have no involvement with ransomware or crime and are taking appropriate steps. But there are also cryptocurrency exchanges, cryptocurrency mixers and tumblers, whose main reason for being is catering to a criminal market and allowing ransomware actors and other bad actors to conceal the way their money has moved. You asked me what we are doing about it.
Yes.
I think working with our international partners and international coalitions, we are attempting to identify these bad actors, corrupt cryptocurrency exchanges, and bring them to justice, identifying the exact human beings involved who are doing this and arresting and prosecuting them when possible, attacking their online infrastructure to bring down their sites if an arrest by itself is not going to be possible.
An essential theme that we've had at the annual meeting 2024 has been multilateral collaboration, working with your partners in different states. And we had the head of the GCHQ intelligence in the opening plenary. And he said in the intelligence community, there's a lot of information sharing with like-minded governments. What are you doing with, say, a Europol or Interpol? And is there a movement here to put cyber as a priority in these organizations?
Yes, so this is a very important question. As I look at the last 10 years, the most important achievements we've made in the US Department of Justice, every single one of those involved significant international cooperation. And every single one of those, it was not the United States acting alone. We were working with law enforcement partners around the world, collectively saying, what's your evidence? What have you seen of this picture? What have you seen of this picture? What's your ability to act? Are any of these persons servers in your jurisdiction versus ours? And then, instead of just each acting on our own, making little mosquito bites here and there, we can cooperate and act at the same time with a single international action designed to bring down criminal services. Our ability to do that is crucial. We are proud of the way that we have built positive law enforcement relationships in the international community over years by establishing mutual trust. You mentioned some of the organizations. I think I will particularly mention Europol as being really toward the top of its game in being able to convene stakeholders who can act on these, organize them, and plan some of these international acts.
Can I ask you a personal question? Does it feel like a game of whack-a-mole where you attacked and stopped something in one country and that very organized crime organization pops up in another and you're chasing something, or are you winning this battle, do you think?
I'm asked that often. I guess I've never thought of it so much as whack-a-mole, like the carnival game where you hit one after another. I think that the way that we have moved our economy, our social life, so many other things toward the internet over the last 20, 30 years has provided significantly more opportunities for crime. And I think we as an international community have been somewhat slow to appreciate that and to appreciate the human consequences of our having done so. But as that appreciation is growing in governments around the world, there's increasing attention to what we can do systematically to address the problem. We in law enforcement are very proud of the work that we do. I don't think any of us think that we're going to arrest and prosecute our way entirely out of the problem. But we are an important way to demonstrate and signal that this type of conduct is unacceptable and that when possible, governments will halt it. In the long run, I think the solution is to address network security itself, the defensive side, and better address that and equip our businesses, our citizens, our government agencies with better defenses than are available today.
Good. I was bringing up this theme during our different discussions. I'd love to get your thoughts. That we're getting to the level now because cybercrime is supposed to be over $10 trillion by 2025, the end of the year, and that's almost fourfold where we were just 2 years ago, so it's growing rapidly, depending on the figures and the data that you're using. But I'm wondering if, in fact, a country will be judged by the robustness of its cybersecurity system, its banking system, the trust in its structures. Is that where we should be getting to, where you have that collaboration? You say, you have to fortify your system, otherwise you can't develop if you don't have trust in your technology systems and your defenses.
I think that I heard your observation. I think it's very incisive. An interesting development in the United States within the last 2 years is our Securities and Exchange Commission now requires robust disclosures by our public companies of their cybersecurity defenses.
I didn't know that. That's
More importantly, they are required to disclose when they have experienced a material cybersecurity incident. When there has been an incident, an attack on their company that might affect their business, that now must be disclosed to investors. That is a recognition by our securities regulators that investors are absolutely interested in putting their money where cybersecurity is present.
Okay. What are the tips to a private industry? Because you have an interesting, unique insight into the nefarious characters around the world. Banks, it's built on trust. Yeah. Healthcare systems are vulnerable. Utilities are, water systems, airports, right? Air traffic control systems. What's the advice you'd give today?
And it's interesting to ask someone like me for advice. It's kind of like asking someone who prosecutes bank robbers, like, how do you better secure a bank? But the truth is that we do see a pattern over and over of certain problems. I think one of the best defenses that's not being employed is hardware-based multi-factor authentication. Meaning when your employees log in, it's not simply a password, it's a physical token that they, perhaps a card, YubiKey, something like that they enter. For the attacks we are seeing, they would not be able to overcome that type of mechanism.
It's very good advice, though, actually. We talked about this in the Child Protection Summit. Maybe we should have, you have a driver's license, but maybe we should have identities better defined online in the future.
Yes. Now, let me say, I think it's easy for you and I to have that type of discussion. Implementing it can be somewhat harder. And I think also it's not just a matter of technology, but within your organization, do you properly elevate cybersecurity to the correct level? Like, is that something that's coming under the CEO's attention or the head of the agency's attention? Or have you instead put cybersecurity off into a separate silo? It's one person off in the organizational chart who is not empowered to make this appropriate changes, is not adequately funded for it. I think that's an important issue as well.
Good. Your final thoughts. We have 2 minutes left. I wanted to get your perceptions of the Institute itself, the players that are here, the conversations, the approach to cyber in the policy apparatus. Is it in the right direction? And is it a similar narrative in the United States or when you're interfacing with Europol, for example? Because you need everybody to be on the same line of thinking in this defensive nature.
Yes, and I think an important development in that regard has been in the United Nations recently, the conclusion of negotiations over a United Nations Cybercrime Convention. As part of this convention, all nations that join the treaty will agree to have certain crimes on their books that appropriately define cybercrime, and child exploitation crime, I should say, will be included in that. In addition, nations agree to cooperate with each other in the exchange of evidence, in some cases extradition. At the same time, the treaty includes important human rights protections. We think the conclusion of this treaty was a very significant advance and potentially could provide significant benefit in the future toward international cooperation against cybercrime.
Interesting. This is part of the digital compact, right, that was expanded in the Summit of the Future, I think. Is it the roadmap? Because they're coming together rather quickly. I saw it at the UNGA this year.
Well, this arose out of the United Nations Ad Hoc Committee on Cybercrime, which was conducting negotiations over, I believe, a 3-year period.
I'm delighted to hear that there's the progress. As we were discussing behind the scenes for our audience, multilateral institutions are under pressure because people don't think they're effective. This is one that you can mark into the effective box, you're saying?
I think international cooperation is absolutely essential for effectively combating cybercrime.
Good. I could go it easy another half hour, and I had the so yesterday when we met. Can we give him a nice round of applause, Mr. Goldfoot of the U.S. Department of Justice? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.